let's see, I'm interested in this the new big MMO of 2026.
So,
as an MMO player, I'm very, very interested. So let's see.
The few months haven't been too great for new MMO releases.
What do you mean?
The vast majority of games released in this genre since, well, the past decade really, haven't really seen long-term success, or they've been cancelled before full release. At this point, it seems like MMO players, including myself, have reached a point of acceptance and have mostly consolidated to the big, successful, long-term MMOs that have managed to maintain healthy player bases for multiple years. World of Warcraft, Guild Wars 2, Old School RuneScape, Final Fantasy XIV, ESO, Albion Online, Black Desert Online, and so on. A while ago,
let's be honest, the biggest one is WoW. Not even close. Not the numbers right now from China and all over the world in general are huge for WoW.
To make these yearly videos titled Most Popular MMO of X Year, and we're basically at the point where I could copy-paste the 2023 version of that video and it'd probably still be 90% accurate. In the past 6 months, we've had New World announce it'll be shutting down at the end of 2026, the implosion of Ashes of Creation, Project Ghost cancelled, New Lord of the Rings MMO cancelled, Warhammer MMO cancelled, and the ZeniMax MMO cancelled.
The problem is that MMOs are the hardest game to make, because first, you have to make the game from scratch, because it's a big game. And then you have to do the online implementation, that one may think is very easy, no? You just put online, you go in the code online, yes. No, it's not that easy, unluckily. And you have to also calibrate things, and then MMO is a big game in general, it's not a small thing. I mean, you could do a small world, but many players would probably feel like, you know, especially right now, that every game has to have 256 gigabytes of map only because it has to be huge, 12 planets, 15 continents, you know, that fucking shit doesn't really make sense in my opinion, but whatever. It's the new meta, and the problem is that with an MMO you need to balance things out, and you need to be an interesting MMO. That's the most important thing. You cannot be a boring MMO that doesn't make sense, and you cannot copy all the MMOs, otherwise you're gonna be called copy of X game. So, it's very hard to do. And 90% of the time, the new MMOs are like, you're just another Unreal Engine 5 slop shit that comes out and try to be an MMO, but you suck anyway. And that's true, actually. Or, another WoW copy, that's so or another Final Fantasy, or another thing. So it's very hard. The only MMO that I'm really putting my trust into, and I'm really looking forward, is the Riot MMO, for one simple reason. Riot is a multi-billion-dollar company, first of all. So it has the money to spend on a project like this. And second of all, it has a world already built around with a good lore. And some of the old developers of WoW, if I'm not mistaken, went to Riot to do this MMO. And most importantly, it seems like this project has been going on for years. And this is very important, because MMOs take years to make. Years. It's not Overwatch that in 1 year and a half it can be done and shipped. So, yeah, that's the most important, in my opinion. Let's go.
It's certainly been rough, and what's even more concerning is that the few big MMOs that did release in the past few years haven't exactly maintained player numbers that suggest a long future. Look at Throne and Liberty. This is 18 months after it released, and honestly, this game had some really cool features, but this chart does not look good, especially for a game that went through a 10+ year development cycle.
Oh, very bad.
How about Lost Ark? It recently turned 4 years old. Prior to release, this was one of the most hyped MMORPGs of the past.
Yeah, but there's a problem. They have to stop giving games to Amazon. Amazon has this cool ability called continuing killing games. That is the opposite of stop killing games. Every games that Amazon touches, it dies. Lost Ark had the potential to be one of the biggest MMOs in the West as well, but it got touched by Amazon. And the first month was basically unplayable. And many players said, fuck off. Secondly, there's a huge problem. The game is very Korean style. You know, it's very Asian farming style. And not many Westerners like the genre. So, either you try to modify this and to fit the Western taste. Otherwise, you say, fuck off. Or at least you try to, help that part of the player base. But you could also say fuck off. The problem is that if you say fuck off, at least give me everything that the other players have from the beginning. I wanted to play a certain class that was already released, has been released in Korea from like day 2 basically, but we didn't receive it. And I was so fucking mad. I wanted to play the class and I couldn't. Then I found love in the scrapper, so that's whatever. But I was so mad for that. Fuck you, Amazon. Literally.
Decade. Also, not looking good. PAX Day released 1.0 not too long ago. Also seems to be struggling.
Yeah.
Blue Protocol.
Blue Protocol was another thing. Guessed it right. Touched by the wrong people. Whatever.
Brighter Shores. Core Punk.
Oh.
You get the point. Like, it's not as if we don't get new MMO releases, it's just that these new MMOs aren't able to hold on to a decent sized population or break into the top 10 for longer than a few months. So what does the rest of 2026 hold for us in terms of upcoming MMOs? What are the next big MMO releases on the horizon? In this video, we'll discuss all of that. But first, a shout out to today's sponsor, Albion Online, one of the few...
But I'm not interested in Albion.
Check it out.
I've seen it.
I'm really looking forward to the most in the near term is actually Chrono Odyssey. This game had a beta test back in mid-2025, and honestly, it was rather underwhelming. The game definitely had some good aspects, but at the time, it was targeting an end of 2020.
The problem is that, again, look at the interface, look at everything. Cheap, free-to-play MMO with a Real 5 engine graphics. No. This is not... In MMOs, the problem that I see is that very few games with a Real 5 engine graphic slapped on it have somewhat of a success. Otherwise, is using a real engine feels like such a cheap thing to do, you know what I mean? Like, you don't have a soul to your game. You don't see a graphic from the game and you're like, ah yes, this is that game. Like, if I show you a frame of a fucking hut in WoW, you already know that is WoW for the graphic, because it's a singular, I mean, it's unique. All these Unreal Engine 5 look the same. They look literally the same. Or you have amazing gameplay, or some feature that is like mind-blowing, game-breaking, insane WoW, or you're just gonna fall under the umbrella of every other Unreal 5 engine game. You look the same, you feel the same, you play the same. So that's the real problem there, in my opinion. But, well, we'll see.
25 release. During the beta test, I remember it just felt super undercooked and needed a lot of work. Most notably, I remember the combat and movement feeling quite clunky. My attacks lock me in animation for so long, it's extremely difficult to get an attack off. Like, one attack, you would think that everything would be animation cap. What even killed me? Chrono Odyssey also seemed to take a lot of inspiration from New World, both with its combat UI, as well as gathering and crafting. This was at a time when we still thought New World still had a long future ahead of it. Since that beta test, the Chrono Odyssey devs have done exactly what I wanted to see them do. They delayed the game, they made a blog post addressing every point of player feedback, and recently we've started seeing them release footage of changes to the fundamental gameplay issues like combat, movement, camera, and content. With the upcoming shutdown of New World and Chrono Odyssey likely releasing early 2027, I can definitely see this being a game that ex-New World players will migrate to. As Chrono Odyssey is a Korean MMO, one big concern is obviously, will it be pay to win? Right now, we don't know, but it is worth mentioning that unlike most Korean MMO releases, Chrono Odyssey is actually developed by an indie studio. There is no big publicly traded publisher like NCSoft pulling the strings, so monetization should be in the hands of the developers for this one. I'd personally like to see them go with the same monetization model that Where Winds Meet uses. Cosmetic only gacha. It makes a ton of money, but it doesn't compromise the integrity of the game. I think that's the best we can hope for. Overall, my excitement level for Chrono Odyssey is probably a 6 out of 10. Arcade Chronicles is another big...
I tried the beta as well. It was so underwhelming. Probably I did like 10 or 11 levels, and I said that no, I couldn't do it anymore. It was too unbearable to play. So yeah, I just quit. My excitement is a bit underwhelming right now. WoW is doing a very good job, so starting a new game is not really what I'm looking for, except if something really crazy comes out. So let's see. Maybe that's something interesting
that
here.
We might see at the end of 2026 or early 2027. And based on their recent uptick in activity on X, it seems like things are moving along nicely.
Yeah.
Arcade Chronicles has been in development for a long time at this point. It's being made by XL Games, so I would expect it to be pay to win, unfortunately. And based on the info they've put out about the game over the years, it seems much less massively multiplayer than the original Arcade. From the footage shown, it seems like Arcade Chronicles will have a similar combat system to Chrono Odyssey and New World. It's being developed in UE5 and will be...
Looks like Guild Wars 2.
Cross-platform on both PC and consoles. Honestly, I'm not super excited for Arcade Chronicles, and it seems to only be Arcade in name. Mid-2025, they released a dev diary basically saying it's not a traditional MMORPG, but a discovery-driven online action RPG.
Okay.
To be honest, I think the success of Arcade Chronicles rests entirely on the combat being extremely good and the monetization not ruining the game. Two things that I'm skeptical about them being able to achieve. Overall, I'd say my excitement for this game is a 5 out of 10, and I'm hoping to be pleasantly surprised. Aeon 2 will most likely be releasing globally towards the end of 2026. This game already released both in Korea and Taiwan over 5 months ago, and it does seem like the game has been an overall success in terms of financials. As of making this video, it's still in the top 10 for Korean PC bang usage, and by January 2026, it had already made $68 million.
Not bad.
Aeon 2 is a cross-platform PC mobile MMO made in Unreal Engine 5. It uses a hybrid tab-target combat system that allows for dodges and combos, and it also features a mix of both PvP and PvE content, with many people saying that it's kind of similar to Lost Ark. Personally, my excitement for Aeon 2 is like a 3 out of 10 because it does seem to be disgustingly pay to win. So I wouldn't expect it to maintain a player base in the West for longer than 3 months. I can see it being another Throne and Liberty situation, although Aeon is a much more established IP, so maybe it will do a bit better. When it comes to Western MMOs, I think the only one releasing in the short term that has mass appeal is Scars of Honor. It looks heavily inspired by World of Warcraft. It's got that stylized aesthetic. It seems to have that responsive, fluid movement, as well as a mix of both PvP and PvE content. It's also going to be free to play.
I'm happy about one thing. The graphic finally looks different from every other game that we've seen for now. Like, every other game that we've seen for now was a different spice of Unreal Engine 5. But they all looked somewhat the same. This one, similar, but at least there's a twist, you know? They use a different type of pasta as well.
It could definitely appeal to WoW fans who don't want to pay for that monthly sub. Scars of Honor seems to be targeting an end of 2020. Don't want to pay for that monthly sub.
This is the real... fuck. Never mind. This is the same graphic engine they used for Fortnite. Fucking bullshit, man. Look at the shit. Damn, I hate this fucking thing, man. Zero creativity. Fuck these people.
Scars of Honor seems to be targeting an end of 2026 release, and there's also going to be a Steam playtest from April 30th to May 11th. I think you can sign up for that right now, so go check it out on Steam. I'd say that my excitement for this one is like a 5 out of 10, and I'm hoping that I can get access to the playtest soon and make a first impressions on it. But honestly, in the next year, that's pretty much it for the big MMO releases that have a decent shot of cracking the top 10. Of course, we do still have the other big projects in development, like the Riot MMO and Guild Wars 3.
Then we have 2 big titles in development. That's crazy. Now, this is something that I like to... Guild Wars 3 coming out after like 20 years. No, it's not 20 years, but like 15 years or something. It's crazy. No way. When did this game came out? Misclicked. Here. I was here. Okay. Sorry. When did this game came out? GW2. Came out in Guild Wars 2005. And Guild Wars 2? 2012. Damn! Yeah, 13 years. 14, 14, I don't know, don't care.
3, but these could still be years away. We literally know nothing about these games, but even
I heard something about Riot Games being available from like 2029, 2030. Now I don't remember correctly, but it was somewhere around those lines. No? I feel like they're speaking to Blizzard about the finish of WoW, because I feel like Riot MMO is gonna release as soon as the last expansion that we know for now of WoW, so the Last Titan, releases and ends. And I feel like when the game ends, Riot knows that Blizzard is gonna leak players and lose some players. So they're gonna wait for the end of the Last Titan and then announce the release of the MMO to start, getting some players, releasing some betas, pew, 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 some alphas. I feel like it's gonna go probably something like that.
That my excitement levels are like a 9 out of 10 for both of them.
Same.
Of course, we do still have a bunch of indie MMOs or niche MMOs that are also likely to release relatively soon.
Yeah, no.
Monsters and Memories is...
Honestly, I don't trust the indie MMO. How do you have enough money as an indie developer to support an MMO? There's no way you can do something like an indie MMO. That's not a terminology that I can literally hear. It's so wrong in every single sense. MMO is massive multiplayer online. How does an indie developer keep up with a massive demand? You know what I mean?
The big one that classic MMO fans seem to be most looking forward to. This is another spiritual successor to EverQuest and is currently scheduled to enter early access on June 1st, 2026.
Okay.
Aside from that, if you're into Pixel MMOs on June...
Subscription will be $15 a month and include content update. There will be a no-box price in our game microtransaction. This is good for some people. Some people may look at this and say, wow, amazing, no microtransaction. But for an indie game, it means someone has to pay $15 a month and has to, gamble if the game is going to be good or not. You don't know. It's just a gamble. You don't know if the game is good. You just gamble $15 a month. You could do that for the first month, just to try out the game. So you basically buy the game, but don't buy the game. Interesting. I don't think it's going to go far.
26.
But let's see.
Aside Maybe from I'm wrong. That, if you're into Pixel MMOs, then Dracantos seems to be getting closer to a release. I actually covered this in a First Impressions last year, and the devs have already fixed my biggest problem with the game, which was the movement.
Okay.
So I'm looking forward to giving that one another try too.
Yeah, sure. This
another lesser known but still beloved IP that should be releasing a sequel in the next year is...
Honestly, this looks like a game that is very chill and I would love to try. Honestly, if this is Dracantos, new Pixel MMO, is worth play. I'm very interested in trying this out. Very interested. Let's see if there's another after the video.
Was the movement. So I'm looking forward to giving that one another try too. Another lesser known but still beloved IP that should be releasing a sequel in the next year is Ragnarok Online 3. Although that one does have a solid chance of being pay to win, as with every Korean.
I played this one on my phone, if I'm not mistaken. This was a phone game, if I'm not mistaken.
We've also got Bellatorus, another Korean MMO, Architect's Land of Exiles, which looks absolutely awful, and Apogia, which is basically a modern take on Tibia. But honestly, these games are kind of niche and are unlikely to sustain a spot in the top 10 MMOs for longer than a week or two. Despite most new...
Honestly, the top is probably going over Albion and Black Desert, not more than that. I don't think...
MMOs failing to maintain a stable long-term player base. I did find 2 that seem to be exceptions to this rule. Palia became playable back in 2023 and released on Steam in March 2024. Since then, the game's received numerous updates, is sitting at very positive reviews, and has maintained a stable player base. And this chart doesn't even show player numbers for PS5, Xbox, or Nintendo.
Not bad.
It might not be a traditional MMO, but I think I would consider this one a success.
Yeah.
The Quinfall initially came to early access on Steam at the start of 2025, and it got off to a really horrible start. rampant cheaters, bugs. The game was an absolute
interface
mess,
looks terrible.
In the time since, it seems to have seen quite a big resurgence in player numbers.
Okay, nice.
Seemingly due to the shutdown of Ashes of Creation as well as New World.
Yeah.
The game still has a long way to go, but it does at the very least seem to be showing signs of turning things around. So that's pretty much it when it comes to the next big upcoming MMORPGs. Okay. Most of them are coming out of Korea or they're fairly niche. There is no WoW killer. There probably never will be. And most people will have just consolidated to the top 10 most popular.
Honestly, a WoW killer, if you told me WoW killer was gonna be some game like in Shadowlands, I would have been like, any game can be a WoW killer right now, because Shadowlands was so bad. But seeing Midnight, I don't think there's gonna be any WoW killer anytime soon. The only thing that can actually try and kill WoW if WoW doesn't end is gonna be the Riot MMO. Other than that, I don't think a WoW killer is ever gonna exist until WoW goes out of production. Literally. There's nothing else that can beat that game.
Despite the MMO genre seeming quite dead in terms of new releases right now, though, that isn't to say that there hasn't been games releasing that doesn't scratch that MMO itch or appeal to MMO fans. Recently, we've had Crimson Desert release, and whilst definitely not an MMO, many people describe it as feeling like a single-player MMO, especially with how the devs have continued to update it post-launch.
That's very
cool. We've also got Where Winds Meets. It does have an online mode, but personally, I do prefer the single-player stuff in this game. Soulframe is another one, not a full MMO, but more of an online action RPG with multiplayer elements. Also, looking quite promising. Then you've got PoE 2 and Diablo 4 on the ARPG side of things. Not MMOs, but there's definitely some audience crossover there. And then you've got a plethora of survival RPGs, a genre that I've really come to love in the past few years, that definitely gives a similar satisfying sense of progression to MMOs.
Very interesting.
Games like Valheim, Aska, RuneScape Dragon Wilds, Enshrouded, Bellwright, and too many more to even mention.
I don't know.
Actually, whilst I was taking a break from YouTube after the Ashes of Creation implosion, I spent like 2 full weeks playing Aska with one of my friends. I'm over 300 hours in that game now, and I absolutely love it. Just looking forward to more content and eventually a 1.0 release. My point is, whilst full-scale big MMORPGs might not be releasing or popping off like they used to, I actually think more games than ever are adding MMO-like features and systems that scratch a similar itch. MMOs are expensive as hell to make, and due to Western game dev wages being so high, they're just not financially wise games to pursue for investors.
That's what I said.
That's why we mostly see.
It's like gambling, but the gambling is a gambling instead of a gambling machine. It's like you use the you go to the machine, the slot machines, but the probability for you to actually make a good game, an MMO that sticks to the public in a slot machine, is the same probability that every number, it's the same number that would be a lottery ticket. You know what I mean? Like every single number should win a lottery ticket to actually be the right MMO. There's like no way any studio can right now even compete with WoW or something like that. I feel like that's the problem.
These games
and why many companies don't want to invest.
Korea or China nowadays, where the wages are much lower and they're much more financially viable. But that's where we'll wrap things up for this video.
Thank you very much. I wanted to see this one you were saying, Drakantos. Let me see. I'm somewhat curious. Drakantos. There we go. Drakantos on Steam. Is it playable yet? Coming soon. Okay. We have some interesting gameplay elements that I'm seeing. We have a bar, an action bar. It does seem like not a turn-based. Very good, interesting. Wingon Game Studio LLC. This is their first game. Okay. The pixel art looks very good, though. Every character looks very good, so I'm very interested in this one. I'm probably gonna sign up for the early housing. There we go. Housing. Never mind. Oh, that's very good. That's very good. Look at this Windows 7 Intel Core i3, 4GB RAM, 1GB video memory. This is a very good spec to start a PC. This is a very, very good spec. Love this. Very accessible. Love when the game are accessible to the audience. Very good video indeed, though. Thank you very much. Let's see some comment. Being excited for a new MMO is exhausting. I'm tired, boss. Yeah, absolutely. Bro is excited arc working through the stages of grief. Rest in peace, the MMO genre. Yeah, basically. We went from Tepton, most common coming out this year, to the top 5 MMOs that are gonna die this year. Yeah, basically. Unlucky that's... yeah, you and the housing. Yeah, the housing. Yes, sure. I'm such a good carpenter. I think a lot of MMO players got tired of the monetization, especially lootbox gacha type mechanics where you have to gamble to get the cosmetics you want. They certainly push some players away to seek out single player game mindset. Yeah, sure, possibly. There's the possibility, there's actually the possibility. But other than that, thank you very much, Lazy Peon, for the video. It was very good. Thank you very much. And, see you guys again next time. Bye. Dun, 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 dun. Dun, 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 dun.